Okay, welcome to Amusings with Chelsea and Angie.
Hi, I'm Chelsea.
I'm Angie. Today we are going to discuss in detail Prince Harry's book, The Spare.
Please note that we are not affiliated with this book whatsoever at all. We are just speaking what we think about it. I personally have not read the book while Angie has, and so she's going to break out, and you're probably going to hear some of my reactions to
Yes.
it because we've already kind of talked a little bit about it, and ooh, it's going to sound good.
It's gonna be spicy. Okay, so the book starts off in August 1997, and that is when Princess Diana, for those of you who don't know, that is Prince Harry and Prince William's mother. She was killed in a car crash in Paris. At the funeral, the flag was not flown at half-mast. There was large calling out by the people saying, hey, the Queen needs to, do something, have some emotion. Well, she finally let the palace fly the Union Jack at half-mast. And Harry was 12 at this time.
So, and I remember that as a kid because my mom was actually recording it because it was all it was sad.
Yes.
And some other stuff that happened that doesn't normally happen because technically by law, and I say that with my nice little quotation marks, she was no longer the
part
princess.
of the family. Yes.
So she wasn't a princess by se. But she did get some of the royal stuff in the wedding, such as I believe the flag, right? Draped over.
Yes.
Or whatever. And the Queen did make an acknowledgement of her as they were passing by Buckingham Palace, if I remember correctly.
I think so, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I already feel for this family from the very get-go. So let's dive into what's going on.
So, like I said, Harry was 12, and there was discussion about whether the boys should follow the coffin, the long walk.
Mm-hmm.
And Princess Diana's brother, Charles, said, no, you can't, they're little boys, don't make them walk, that's traumatic. And another option was for Will to do the walk, and Harry was like, no, I don't want Will to do it by himself, So the palace sent word back, no, it has to be both boys. So it was Will, Harry, Charles, and Princess Diana's brother, Charles.
Okay.
And when Harry saw that the flag was at half-mast, he thought to himself, hey, does this mean that, Mommy was forgiven? Did Granny forgive her? And I'm thinking to myself, forgive her for what? She did not do anything.
No, and you and I kind of deep dived into it a little bit, going back in the history about, the whole divorce and everything else. Why should it matter?
Mm-hmm.
Heck, Henry VIII is the one that started the new church that they follow today.
Yeah.
So, really, I mean, that's a touchy...
Yeah, it was a whole, Diana won't step in line with the rest of us. Well, because she wasn't like the rest of you,
No, she was humble and
Yes.
kind and generous and
had feelings.
very caring person. Very wonderful lady. May she rest in peace. Hopefully. One
thing that I did notice was that nobody ever talked to the boys about grieving, or nobody. The only thing Diana's sister gave them each a blue box.
Mm-hmm.
And they opened it, and they're like, what is this? And it was a lock of Diana's hair.
Oh, wow.
So when she went to Paris to, see what was going on, she had clipped a lock of hair for both of them. And Harry never really believed that she was dead, that she just disappeared. Like, she was in hiding because of the paparazzi.
Yeah.
And that she was going to come back and get him.
So sweet.
Yeah. So I was like, nobody explained to him, grief or how this would affect him. Not his mom, not his dad, not his grandmother.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Being a mom, it's absolutely awful to think that the worst case scenario that you had to explain to your child about somebody passing away in general.
Mm-hmm.
And had to explain to them, you can be upset, you can cry when you're sad about somebody passing away or leaving you. And for them to have to go and walk behind that casket, I mean, they are some strong kids. Absolutely strong kids, because I'll be honest, I couldn't have probably done that. That's just hard. And especially because the funeral was not too long after her passing.
No, it was like 2 months, I think.
Yeah.
And he would see, all the flowers that people put up, and he would shake hands, and people's hands were wet, and he's like, why are they wet? And then you realize that they were crying, and he's like, why are you crying? You didn't even know her. And then he was like, I'm not even crying.
Yeah.
And he didn't know why. Another thing, so they do the funeral, and then he goes right back to school, right back into boarding school, like nothing's wrong. And that's another thing. You send your kid to school. When do you see them?
Yeah, I mean that's very, very difficult. I mean, basically you're letting somebody else raise your kid and groom your kid and mold them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, yes, our schools and our teachers, again, I give them 100% props because they are doing something I personally could not do. I mean, I teach my child, yes, but the whole school schematic, everything, and teaching her the English language, Lord help me. Bless them, because it is hard.
He goes into this book and talks about matrons, and when you're under a certain age, I'm guessing 12, before you hit puberty and start, being weird, these women would wash them, tuck them in, give them goodnight kisses. So they're de facto
Basically,
moms.
Kind of like the nannies were back then when people could afford a nanny versus raising their kids. Basically, they were nannies for these kids.
But how do you, as a parent, you have no bond?
No, absolutely. And that's a hard thing to try to figure out, because I'm sorry, I bond with my child every day after school, weekends and stuff, and just everything, getting to go to their sporting events, getting to ask them, hey, how was your day? They're taking a bath, and you go in there, hey, you got 15 more minutes. The next thing you know, you're in a bubble bath fight,
Mm-hmm.
throwing bubbles, or, whatever the case may be. Like throwing snowballs at you in the bathtub. Funny, but totally different.
But I mean, seeing your child grow day to day as opposed to seeing them, 3 months later. Oh, what?
Yeah.
You're taller. Oh.
You're taller. You got a scar on your arm. What happened? And it's like, Shoot, I don't know. That happened like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So
very weird.
Yeah, no, I agree. You've definitely got to have a bond with your kids and stuff. And I mean, I get some of the boarding schools are probably best for them to help certain children out, and I got that, but there does still need to be that bond with that parent. Absolutely. Yeah. Whether it's coming to see them at least a couple times a month. I mean, every other weekend maybe. I mean, even then, that's still...
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So, they had to go to boarding school, so he kind of dived into that, basically, talking about all that stuff.
Yeah. And he also talked about... He was not very good in school. You should know about that. Yeah. But he tried, just like
everybody else does. Everybody learns at their own pace. Everybody's a little different. Some people are fast, some people are slow. Eventually, we all figure it out and figure out our way to learn and to understand the knowledge.
Yes, because everybody's got their way. Like if it's writing notes, and then that's how you learn it, or if somebody explains it to you. Yeah. Everybody's got their something.
They got their little quirks.
So yeah, he went in, and of course when he went into Eton, which is the upper level, like high school.
Yeah.
The press really went hard on him. Which, when you're trying to find out who you are...
During that time, though, that is exactly what you're doing. And it really starts, like, in high school, you're starting to try to kind of figure out the person that you are and the friends that you're hanging out with. And then it really evolves whenever you get out of that high school level and you're going into college and you're going off doing your own thing and whatever. Mm-hmm. You're really evolving as a person and becoming the person you are. I mean, your parents, or in this case, I guess his nannies, I'm going to say.
Oh, they don't have them in Eton.
Yeah.
No, you're on your own.
So you're on your own. So he really is not having anybody to look up to and mold other than, let's say, his teachers, I guess.
Yeah, not even his brother, because as soon as he got to Eton, his brother Will said, "You don't know me."
Well, and I could get that with the brother, sister, brother, and stuff that.
That did not happen. I'm the youngest of 5, and that never happened. None of my brothers or sisters says, "You know what, when we go to school, you don't know me."
Well, I mean, I was in high school, and me and my brother had a bit of a gap and stuff. I mean, I'm close to my brother. We're 18 months apart. But, he kind of went and did his own thing, and I was always doing my own thing. We were never, when we saw each other in the hallway, we kind of just gave a wave and just kept going. But, I mean, I don't know. Siblings are different, I guess, depending on how they are.
Mm-hmm.
And especially being boy to boys. Boys are typically not as affectionate unless they're like, I've noticed like twins are. Doesn't matter what they are, twins seem to, it's that kinetic thing going on. So I'm not even going to mess with that one. But maybe with them, because they were a little bit of an age gap too. Not by much, but
it's about 2 years.
About 2 years. So yeah, I mean, I can understand them not being as close.
They also treat Will different.
Well, yeah, he was not next in line, but he's
the heir
apparent, right?
Yes.
He's down. Yeah. Okay.
Which makes Harry the spare.
Hence the book.
Yes.
So, okay.
So, then he's, doing his school thing. And, Charles decides that this is a good time to bring out the old horse-face Camilla. That's right, I don't like her.
She's different.
She's Bane. Anyway, so Charles set up meetings with the boys so that they could privately meet with Camilla. get to know her a little.
AKA the mistress
Yeah.
before.
Blah. And so, of course, Will went first, and then Harry was like, oh, how'd your meeting go? He's like, it's okay. I mean, nothing big, whatever. So then Harry went, and I think he said they talked about horses or something. And then all of a sudden in the paper you read headlines like, oh, Will accepts Camilla into the family, and with details that Harry said only Camilla and Will would know, and there's no way that Will would spill to the
Press.
Yeah, so it had to be Camilla.
Had to be Camilla,
Yep.
or somebody being tricky, tapping wires, serving people. Which I don't think they would do that, but you never know these days.
It was Camilla. We all know it was Camilla. One other thing I wanted to bring up was that Charles would often joke about Harry's parentage. Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So, he would say, oh, dear boy, I don't even know if you're my son. Ha 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 ha. Because there was always rumor, and the press put it out there, that Major John...
James Hewitt.
James Hewitt, who was a ginger and happened to be a former lover of Princess Diana, might be Harry's father. But the problem is, somebody can't do math, because Harry was born prior to Diana ever meeting James Hewitt. Now, I don't know, my dad would never, ever, he said he's found me in a cabbage patch or maybe in a cornfield, but never that he was not my dad. Who does that?
It was like you said, House of Dragons, that stuff wouldn't fly off with your head.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
and I was like, why did the palace not ever say, okay, you know,
need to stop.
This is going to mess this kid up.
You know, my family, we're always jokesters, and my father. My father is a freaking clown sometimes. And it's like, oh no, you belong to the milkman. What are you talking about? I'm belong to the milkman. I look just like you. Get away from me. You know, that sort of joke and stuff like that. And my family, there's some history behind dads and stuff, so it's always funny. But yeah,
I don't know.
Especially after your mom dies and everything else, and you want to randomly joke like that, like, I don't know if I'm your dad. Like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
I understand the fact that neither of them really look like Charles. Other than, the balding thing.
Hello, it's called good genes on the mama side.
That's
mama sometimes
right.
dominate. Okay?
In this case, they were very lucky.
Look, I have seen what good genes can do, because I will tell you what, you can see a mom and a dad, and you expect the dad being, different ethnic, that the kid would have his dominant genes, but no, that baby came looking out just like mama.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of brown eyes, you got blue eyes. Instead of dark skin, you got light skin. Instead of blonde hair, you got brown hair.
Mm-hmm.
It favors. Typically, what they say is the first child is more likely to look like their dad when they're young, so the dad can imprint on the child. They always say that. I mean, I will admit, my daughter did look like her father quite a bit at first when she was born, just everything wise, but as she's grown, I don't see him as much of in her as I do my side of the family. Not necessarily me, talking about my mom, but it's like, okay, yeah, so you're not looking the same anymore. I mean, there's certain features, of course, that are always going to stay.
Yeah, if you look at Harry's kids, Archie and Lilibet,
Mm-hmm.
both of them have ginger hair.
There you go.
And he was like, yeah, we thought, they would have dark hair like Meg. But no, he's like, those Spencer genes are strong because if you look at his uncle has ginger hair.
That's right.
So, yeah, the Spencer genes are strong.
Dun, 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 dun.
Lucky.
So, and I'll admit, William does look quite a bit like Charles. When you looked at the baby pictures of him versus
Dumbo ears and a big snoot.
No, but I'm talking about baby to baby pictures. They looked very similar.
Yeah.
And then now that William's starting to age and the hair's starting to go back, they're starting to look a little bit, not necessarily identical, because he still has a lot of Diane's features on the family side, but it's still kind of.
I'm gonna tell you something. All babies look the same to me. They just look like little blobs, little blobby blobs.
Look, there was actually a memory that just popped up on my Facebook the other day, and it was you brushing Ava's hair.
Oh, babies with hair. Down. Babies with hair. Ugh.
Oh, you enjoyed it because she had a mohawk.
I gave her a mohawk. Okay, so we're going to talk about some instances where the press, they're not even press. They're paparazzi. And the people that they get to write this story, they're not journalists. These are people that they just pay, hey, write this story. We don't care if it's true. If you can get some pictures with it, that'd be great. Oh, because there's misspellings, there are things that you can quantifiably just deny because you're like, that's stupid. Why would they do that? So here in America, we have what we call journalists that go to school for journalism. Mm-hmm. Because when people here print false stories, you can get sued for libel and slander. Hence Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard.
Oh, girl, don't even get me started on that stuff. Oh, my goodness.
Lost. Okay. But, so when he was at Eton, mm-hmm. He was goofing around. He's a kid. That's what happens. His friends got some clippers and were messing around and shaved a chunk of his head hair off. Oh, no. And so, of course, you have to shave the whole thing off. So the next thing in the paper, it's Harry's a skinhead.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Really? Come on, people. He's a kid.
Yep. Palace did nothing to say, it was just a joke. Ha ha ha. No, the Palace does nothing. Then, a little while later, he broke a bone, I think it was in his hand, playing rugby. And the headlines read, Harry's had an accident. And his dad finally stepped forward and said, look, he's a 14-year-old kid trying to fit in. Would you please stop bullying him?
Yeah, no kidding.
And the press basically said, sod off, which is basically go F yourself. Which, to me, you just told the Prince of England to basically...
bite the weenie.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
That is the relationship between the press and the royals.
Look, I get it. It's different when it's like your family kind of I don't want to say bullying, but pestering you, kind of joking around and stuff like that. But this isn't family. These are people outside, And yeah, okay, ignore what they say and stuff like that. But they write this crap and people take it to heart. People believe it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, don't believe everything you see on Facebook, yet there's a story and about 80% of the people, oh yeah, it's true, it's true, it's true. How do you believe that's true? Like, where's the evidence? Like, I don't know.
So this reminded me while I was reading this about this nature show that I was watching. You're going to get so grossed out by this.
Oh,
okay,
great.
So there are these hippos.
Oh, Lord.
And they're in the water. Bloop, 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 bloop. And so let's just pretend that these hippos are the British press.
Okay.
So then the hippo would poop in the water.
Ugh.
Well, they have to poop.
Well, I got that, but really?
But these little fish in the water, as soon as the hippo poops, they go after the poop. Nom 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 nom.
No, it's not.
So that is what the British people act like when the papers just drop some random lying bomb of garbage. They're like these little fish. Ooh, num num num, let me eat that up. Num 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 num. Yeah, they're gross little poop eaters. They're hippo poop eaters. You're welcome.
God. Make a cartoon out of that.
Yeah, little hippo poop eaters. So then they started to get worse. They had rumors that he was doing drugs.
And again, he's a teenager. He's going through all this. I'm not saying I did this stuff as a kid. I'm not saying I did.
Oh, he experimented.
And I mean, kids do. That's what they do. It's just like alcohol. You know you're not legal to drink it. You do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, my thing is this. If it's illegal,
do it in your home.
They're going to do it.
Do it in your home.
Okay? Do it in your home.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it outside.
Mm-mm.
Tell your parent. Tell your parent, okay? Say, hey, I want to taste that. Can I have a sip and taste it just to try it?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to say, oh, I like it, or oh, I don't. More likely, you're going to say, oh, I don't. And you know what? You're not going to be tempted to do it outside.
Right.
Because I already did that. Why y'all all excited about trying something and trying to be illegal and all that? Psh, done it.
Been there, done that.
Got a t-shirt.
So, the paper basically said that they had evidence that Harry was doing drugs. And instead of saying, no, that's not true, Prince Charles's horse-faced girlfriend, Camilla, had hired a new PR spin doctor person.
Of course.
So he took this story and spun it to make Charles look good. Like, oh, he's the divorced dad of a frazzled, he's a frazzled single dad dealing with a drug-addled child.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Instead of, no, my son is not doing drugs, which he was not at that time.
No, we tried it later.
we're just gonna make it, oh yes, I'm dealing with this. Feel sorry for me. So that just drove me nuts. Then there was another time a journalist tried to blackmail Harry and Charles, saying that they had pics of him doing lines of cocaine. Harry called his bluff, and the journalist, bunny ears right there, dropped it and, was basically like, you're right, you caught me, blah, blah, blah. So that idiot ended up becoming friends with Camilla and Charles. Interesting, yeah. Jerk. Yeah.
But you know what? I guarantee you, Charles and Camilla probably had done the exact same thing at their time at that age. Because I'm pretty sure back before Diane ever met Charles, wasn't he a wild one at one point in time? Pretty sure.
I don't know.
Pretty sure. I've seen a few documentaries. I'm pretty sure he was a little bit of a wild cat in his day too.
Let's see. A couple other things. Okay, before graduating, Harry was accused of cheating, which he didn't. And this was on an art project, by the way. It was really stupid.
An art project?
Yep.
How the heck you cheat on an art project?
I don't know. He didn't understand that either. But he was not doing well in school, but he realized in order to graduate, I have to buckle down. So his dad got him tutors. He buckled down. He graduated.
Got his GPA up. All right.
But the paper started throwing out there that, ooh, it's Prince Thicko. Which I guess is, hey, it's Prince Dum Dum. I don't know why they don't just use Dum Dum. Whatever.
Okay.
Yep. So then he told his dad, look, this is bull. And all his dad keeps saying throughout this book is, oh, darling boy, just don't read it. Just don't read it.
Okay. So, kind of sounds like everybody else. Oh, don't mind everybody. Let's just keep our blinders on,
yeah,
and keep moving forward. I mean, there are certain aspects that, yeah, you can put your blinders on, keep going forward. Don't listen to them. Don't worry about it and stuff like that. But there comes a time that, okay, look, enough's enough.
Mm-hmm.
Stand up and be my freaking dad.
Well, he never does.
Be my dad.
Never does. Don't want to spoil the ending. Never does.
Don't.
So he graduates, takes a gap year, which we don't have. I don't know. I've never heard of a gap year. It's like a year off between graduating high school and going into college where you go and travel the world. Well, some of us don't have a ton of money
to do that. No.
We just go right into school.
We go right into work.
So he decided he was going to go into the army. So he had a gap year. So he went to Australia.
Okay.
And worked on a working farm. And lo and behold.
Good for him.
Yeah, the Paps found him.
Of course they do.
And I'm like, why do you want to take pictures of him working on a farm, you bag of weirdos?
Go ahead, make the farmers look good.
And he also went to South Africa, Botswana, which is where I think he meets Tej and Mike, and they basically become his surrogate mom and dad. Throughout this entire book, anytime he needs to get away, his refuge is going to Botswana and talking with Mike and Tej. And while he was on his gap year, one of his secretaries got him pictures of the crash.
Oh no.
Yes. Because he was never told really, what had happened.
Right.
So he looks at the photographs, and his secretary kept out the most graphic. He's like, you don't need to see these. And he's like, thank you, I appreciate it. So the ones that he did see, he mentions that she has a halo around her. And he realizes that those are the reflections of the flashes from the photographers. And he's like, nobody ever stopped shooting pictures. He's like, nobody checked on my mom, asked her if she was okay, rendered any kind of aid as she was
just laying there,
laying in between the seats.
So there could have even been a possible chance. See, and this goes back to that conspiracy stuff that I told you about earlier. But there could have been a possible chance that she could have probably even survived, or at least a potential somebody would have pulled her out or got, helped.
Yeah. I don't know what the
that-
coroner said. I don't know,
Yeah. But still, I mean, the natural defense is to go in and try to help. If you're obvious to see that a lot of stuff's broken and you don't really want to move them, I mean, you're still calling 911. You're not sitting there taking freaking pictures.
Right. I would have opened the door, are you okay? Do you need help? You're not alone. I mean, I would have liked to have known that I was not alone in this situation, but nobody even opened the door. Nobody did anything. Which here you would, isn't there a Good Samaritan law? Like if you don't render aid or something, you can, and it set off his rage against the paparazzi. He was just incensed after that.
I would be too. That freaking just grinds my gears just thinking about it. You see somebody, in an accident or on the side of the road and they look like they need help. I get nowadays and stuff like that being cautious. Absolutely, 100%. Especially if you're a female, you're alone. Or even if you're a male and you're all alone and stuff and you're kind of nervous about going up to somebody. You kind of pull over, roll down and go, hey, is everything okay? Are you all right? Do I need to call anybody? Or if they're rendered unconscious, you're calling for help and you're trying to assist or try to do something.
Yeah, but no.
Try to flag down more help.
They caused it, and they, instead of saying, oh, dang, I should probably do something, they just sat there and took pictures as she's dying.
That's insane.
Yeah. So, Harry finally went into the army. And did he get away from the paparazzi? No. Because so the paparazzi not leaving Harry alone, even though he's going into the army. So we went to boot camp, and a reporter from The Sun snuck onto the base with a fake bomb. Nobody knows why. He said, because I'm trying to show the lacks of security. And I was like, that's stupid. Why? Who does that? Dum-dums. That's who.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So they just wouldn't leave him alone. And what I thought was interesting was when he talks about doing CBRN training, which is chemical, hazardous, nuclear, whatever, training. They make you go into this gas chamber, and then they'll set off gas, and then they tell you to take off the mask so you know what
to expect. Yeah.
I was like, as soon as I read that, I was like, oh my God, that's what my brother did when he was up at Fort Riley, when he went to training for the Army here.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's neat. They do that over there. Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah, interesting.
Neat little fact.
Yeah, just a little tidbit. Then he was talking about, he was almost done. They had to do a mile, not a mile. They had to do a nonstop run. And, they were in Wales, and it was raining, and his foot started to hurt, so he took his sock and his boot off and his sock, and he said the bottom of his foot peeled off.
Like the skin?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He had trench foot.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes. And he was like, oh man, I'm done. They basically told him, you're done. And one of his sergeants said, hey, you've only got like 6, maybe 8 miles left, and you're done. So rather than just give up, he put his sock and his boot back on, and he finished. Trooper! Thank you, golf clap. Way to go, Harry. Was not just playing Army, he did it.
Yeah, I mean...
Way to go.
I'd be going, ow.
Well, yeah. I'd be like, ugh. So he finished boot camp, and then he made second lieutenant.
Oh, okay.
And
cool.
he got orders to go to Iraq. And I don't understand this part. In 2007, Britain's Minister of Defense announced that Harry would be commanding a group of light tanks along the Iraqi border near Basra. Why? You just announced to the entire world where he was going. Yeah.
What he was going to do. I mean, isn't that... I know we got stuff going on right now currently in the world, but isn't that like big no-no? Because
you would think
that's giving away military information.
Yeah.
And what we call it, the PII secret.
Personal. Yeah, they tell you turn your locating stuff off on your phone so people don't know where you are.
Oh my gosh.
So,
this poor guy can't catch a break.
I know. 2 months after that, they said, haha, you can't go to Iraq because we've got a whole bunch of threats against your life saying, yes, bring your prince here. We will spread his infidel blood all over our sand. So, yeah. So he did not go. And he was, I would go angry and disappointed.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you're serving your country, and
your
own country is literally ratting you out where you are and that you are over there.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you go into the military, just like we've had famous basketball players, Olympians, and stuff like that have joined the military for America, you know, the Army, the Marines, the Air Force.
Don't forget the Navy.
The Navy, National Guard.
Coast Guard.
You know, whatever they signed up for. And they're going to serve their country. They're going to do their duty. What they feel is right by them. However they expect to go over there and do that. You know, you're not, hey, you know, I'm the king, I'm the prince, I'm, you know, whoever. We're sending our prince over there. Just FYI, throw some threats out.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of like, why would you do that as a government
all they had to do was say, he is serving the military.
Yeah, he's serving our country.
We don't need to tell you where.
Disclosed locations cannot be announced for top secret PII information.
So while he's waiting for what he's going to do next, he was leaving a club in London, and him and his bodyguard basically got swarmed by 20 paparazzis. Then he got into the police car, and they swarmed that, and they climbed on the roof of the vehicle. I'm telling you, these people are nuts. And they were wearing like football scarves and hoodies and masks, and he said just like terrorists. So then I looked up the definition of a terrorist.
All right.
Definition of a terrorist is a person who uses unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. So my question is, what is it when you're not using it for political aims, you're using it for monetary gains? So they're basically money terrorists.
Yeah, sense. Yeah, I mean, I get the whole, you know, America-wise, you know, freedom of the press and stuff like that. But there's only so far you can go before it's, dude, this is harassment, and this is literally what they're doing. They're harassing this poor guy.
Yes.
Following him, not letting him have a life. It's like, how would you like to be followed around every day?
They are literally causing accidents.
Hello?
He was in, well, yeah, not just her mom.
97.
Or his mom. But he was getting into a vehicle, and the paparazzi hopped the curb and smashed into the back of the police car.
Something has got to give with these, like,
You would think.
You know,
I mean, we have laws here.
the Britain Ministry of Defense needs to do something, or whoever's over their country needs to, like, hey, something needs to be put in place to stop these people from doing what they're doing, because it is harming the family. It's harming people's family, and not only them, but the paparazzi themselves too. Because basically all they're doing is saying, hey, I don't care how you get the photo, I'll give you $10,000 or however many pounds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, go get this photo at whatever cost.
But they don't care because they're those little poop hippo fish. hippo poop fish. So he was finally given, he got to go to Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
And they trained him to be a FAC, F-A-C, forward air controller. It's a highly sought-after job. He basically orchestrated air power, calling raids, rescues, medevacs. He trained really hard. And then in 2007, he went to Afghanistan.
Uh-huh.
And not only doing his FAC job, but he also went on patrols like, you know, everybody else.
Yeah, taking his round.
And he was talking about, what was it? He had calling in IEDs and then waiting for the people to come and them disarming the bomb. You know, there were a couple instances that he mentioned that. And then, so he was there about, till about February of 2008 or so.
Okay.
And he heard radio chatter, something about Red Fox is about to be murdered. Well, Red Fox was the code name that they had for Harry. So what had happened was an
What's a code name?
I'll give you a code name, but an Australian magazine had found out where he was.
Oh, no.
He was in Afghanistan, and the story got picked up by the internet, by the Americans. We're bad. Oops, sorry. And then the Taliban, of course, found out, and they swooped in and got him out there. So on his plane ride back, he, was feeling down. Mm-hmm. And up in the front of the plane, that is where they had the wounded and the doctors that were going over with them. So he just went up there and started talking to the doctors, talking to the wounded soldiers, and kind of making a connection. So, he was like, well, I don't feel bad. I mean, I feel bad, but, it could be worse. And that instance basically catapulted him into going to Colorado, and he attended I don't know if they're Wounded Warrior Games.
Mm-hmm.
And then he
Wounded Warriors Project.
Yeah, they had these games in Colorado, and he was like, oh, that'd be cool if we could do something like worldwide. And that later on led him to coming up with the Invictus Games.
Okay, cool.
The sad thing about that is when they stripped him of his titles, they took the Invictus Games, which was his baby. He is no longer affiliated with it.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll give him, credit. Hey,
mm-hmm.
way to go for making it a worldwide thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because, we've got Wounded Warriors all over the world, and it's nice to be, for them
they're
to be
not,
acknowledged.
they may be broken, but they're not down.
Exactly.
They are able. They can do stuff.
They can do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Some of them do better than what, anyone that's not wounded could do.
Yeah. He also, he was invited to take a trek to the North Pole with some wounded soldiers, and he got altitude sickness. Yeah, he got altitude sickness.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then he was later invited to go to the South Pole, and he did that. And I was just really proud that, he stuck with it, and he made a lot of friends, and he took a bad situation and turned it into something, super positive. So he couldn't be a fact anymore. They told him, look, they're going to know when you're on the ground, blah, blah, blah. So one of his commanders said, but they won't know if you're in the air. So they said, why don't you become an Apache pilot? So he spent 2 years learning how to pilot a helicopter, starting off on, I think, these little things called Fireflies.
Okay.
So he goes from a little tiny doo-wopper thing, and then finally, after 2 years of not only learning how to fly, but having to read this big fat manual. Yeah.
No.
They're like, you have to know this
Inside, outside.
inside, outside, upside down.
Well, and I can understand that, especially flying a plane.
Gajillion dollar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very expensive plane.
So he was learning to do that, and then before he went over to Afghanistan, him and his dumb friends went to Vegas. He wanted to go get a tattoo.
Uh-oh.
And his friend said, no, don't get a tattoo, let's just hang out. So they were hanging out, he was shooting pool, thinking he was badass. Saw some girls around, said, hey, wanna play strip pool? So he ended up losing.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So he was naked, and somebody took pictures, and of course sold them. And then the paparazzi won't leave him alone. Oh my God, look what he's doing. The Army didn't give 2 flips. They were like, we just spent a gajillion dollars training you. You're going. We don't care if you were.
What's going on.
We don't care if your ding-a-ling was splashed on the front page. You're gonna go over there. And he was like, fine. By the way, any girl that he is even associated with, I feel sorry for. Their mother, their father, their brother, their friend, their grandmother, their work, where they used to work. They go through their trash. They put trackers on the car. It's insane.
Uh-oh.
One of the girls that he dated maybe 2 or 3 weeks on and off.
Uh-oh.
Nothing serious.
Yeah.
At the end of it, she was like, I can't do this. This is insane.
I don't blame her.
I
mean, you're really getting scrutinized, dig down, figuring out everything about you. It's like, hey, there's got to be some mystery. There's got to be some privacy to a life. You've got to have. It's not a. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's horrible. And he finds out later, towards the end of the book, that she could not take their stalking crap anymore, and she committed suicide.
Oh no.
And the toll that must take.
Yeah, absolutely. To know that,
had I not met you,
maybe you wouldn't have ended up this way. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
People are so cruel.
They are. They're vultures. So he goes to a place called Camp Bastion in Afghanistan, and he's there with his bodyguards because this is the only place that had room for them. Before, he was by himself. This place had space for his 2 bodyguards.
Okay.
So they hear explosions and stuff going off. His bodyguards are running towards him like, I knew this would happen, and he's like, what are you talking about? So they take cover. Him and the other Apache pilots are trying to get to the airfield, and they said, no, it's not clear, you stay where you are. And overhead they hear, I don't know what a Cobra is, but it's apparently an American air vehicle, I don't know, and Apaches and explosions and stuff, and they finally get the all clear, and they find out that during the attack, 2 Americans were killed and 17 British and American soldiers were injured. And what had happened was that some Taliban fighters had gotten a hold of American uniforms. They cut a hole in the fence and slipped in. They were looking for Harry. The Taliban issued a statement and learned about his presence and details of his tour because of non-stop British coverage from the press.
That is insane. I mean, that's just, it's awful to hear that anybody dies. And we know in war that happens.
Yes.
It's inevitable. But to know that this could have possibly
might not have happened. Yes.
Had people kept their mouths shut.
But they don't want to do that.
And to specify you on a Cobra versus an Apache, it's actually the size of the helicopter in a sense, because if you can tell, they're just...
Ooh, the Cobras looks like it's got bigger guns.
Yeah, kind of.
It's American, it has to have bigger guns.
Definitely. I mean, you can kind of get the frontal view and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cobra looks a little swanky versus the Apache, but hey, to each their own. I'm not judging.
So, after his tour, he actually got to finish. Thank you very much.
Woohoo! We got a tour.
And he talks about some of his assignments in there. I'm not going to go into detail into them.
Yeah.
They do have a little bit about Gurkhas, which are Nepalese from Nepal.
Okay.
Warriors. They've always fought for the British, and it was really cool. So then, before he left, the palace required Harry to do an exit interview and about his tour, and they brought this reporter in, and the reporter goes, so did you kill anybody? And he's like, yeah. And the reporter, kind of wide-eyed, what?
Yeah.
And he's like, it's a war, you know.
Yeah, it happens. It's inevitable.
Yeah. And,
do we want it to happen?
No. Otherwise, it'd be called patty cake. We're playing patty cake. No, it's war. Then the reporter asked him, so what do you guys do in your downtime, He's like, well, we shoot pool, we play video games, play cards, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So then, next thing you know, splashed on the newspaper, Harry compares killing to video games, which is not what he said. People don't know what context is. Which is what happened with this book, by the way. They took little excerpts out and splashed them all over the papers in England, and you're not getting the context of the book. Yes. Drove me nuts. So now he's back home, and he starts to realize how things in the family are. He realizes that his dad has this insane need to have good press, and if you look all the way back to when Diana and him were in Australia, they just went nuts over her. And he was just like, no, it's not about you, it's about me.
Yeah.
And he was telling Harry when he was a kid, when he was in school, he got bullied, and nobody really cared for him, and it seems like he has this, I want to be in the spotlight, look at me now.
Yeah.
And so he realizes that Charles and Camilla will basically sacrifice anybody to get their good press. When Will and Kate got married, and started, the press was all over them.
Yeah.
Yeah, look how pretty she, boo, yeah, it's wonderful.
But you know what, I remember whenever William was dating her, because didn't they break up too for a little bit or something, or took like a little bit of a break?
Yeah, because then it was like Waity Katie and all that crap.
Yes. And they scrutinized her quite a bit too, a little bit at the beginning and stuff like that. It's just like, these people do not know when to leave people alone. Like, let them figure this stuff out.
Well, they won't.
Oy vey.
I told you, hippo poop fishes. Ugh. Num 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 num.
Nom noms, that's for sure. That's what they are.
I also learned that Harry, he gets an allowance from his dad for clothes, but that's only formal wear. So I was like, well, where does he get the rest of his money? I still haven't figured that out. But he goes shopping at discount stores. Like, I don't know if it was a typo in the book, but it says TK Maxx. And I was like, I don't know if they mean TJ Maxx or if over in England it's called TK Maxx. I don't know. But he does, like, end-of-year clearance sales.
Heck yeah, who doesn't love a good clearance sale? Hello?
And he goes in at the end, like 15 to 30 minutes before the store closes.
Yeah.
So that he can go in, grab stuff, and then get out. And there's one story he tells about grocery shopping, and it reminded me of my dad.
Okay, there is TK Maxx.
Oh, look at there.
Okay, yeah.
So, okay, it's TJ Maxx, except over in England, it's TK Maxx.
Yeah, I guess.
Same dang store. They got some good stuff. So, he basically knows exactly where everything is in this little grocery store that he goes to.
Okay. So
he's like, I have the entire place memorized. I know where everything is. I go in, load my stuff up. He got it down to like 12 minutes.
Heck yeah. It's called in and out, zip zip.
And he again does it at the, right before close. So then he goes in one day and he's doing his run. Everything is moved.
Oh no.
Yeah, he can't find anything. So he's like, oh my God. So he goes up to the clerk and he's like, where is everything? And they're like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, stuff used to be here and it's not. So they're like, oh, well, we moved stuff around. And he's like,
Walmart structure, restructure.
Yes, that's my dad. He's like, it's like every week I go in and everything's moved and now I don't know where it is. And I was like, oh, look, Harry has that same problem. He went through all that effort, had it down to a science.
Yep, and then they changed it.
Yes.
You darn people.
One of the other of Harry's charities is, like I said earlier, Botswana, where he met Tej and Mike.
Yeah.
So he has continuously gone back. And Tej and Mike were going to start working on a wildlife documentary.
Okay.
And he had mentioned this to Will. And, okay, so this is how it plays off in my head. Will goes, I let you have veterans. Why can't I have African elephants and rhinos? And I was like, seriously? Oh my God, Becky. Did you just say I gave you veterans? Why can't I have the animals?
Oh my word.
And I'm like, isn't Will a veteran? Why isn't he taking an interest? And
oh my gosh.
yeah, I read that and I was like,
what in the...
when have you ever gone and done anything for wildlife? So Harry was like, fine, whatever. And Tej and Mike said, there's enough for everybody. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna go take some time and see what's going down. So he takes a 4-month fact-finding tour to educate himself about the Ivory War. Okay. So he went around. Did I just say went around? Went around. He went to Botswana.
Rabbits going on.
Yes, Botswana, Namibia, Tanzania, and South Africa. And he went out with guides and veterinarians.
Okay.
And for me, it was really heart-wrenching because what they would do is
something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah, these hunters will go and they will trank the rhino. Because shooting would cause noise.
Right.
Yeah. So they go and they tranquilize it. It passes out. They literally dig in and pull out its horn. And then when the animal wakes up, its face is basically off, and it will die. So they talk about one that they worked on. They found her in time. They named her Hope. So they got there and they packed the hole, and they gave her numbing medication for all the nerves that were around the horn.
Oh my gosh.
They did not say whether she died. I think she lived, but they were able to pack her horn where the hole and get her out of there.
I really hope she did.
Yeah.
But even though they were able to do that, she's not able to defend herself as much as she probably could before.
Right.
They use their horns for protection and defending off animals, and if I'm not mistaken, they rub it up against trees to help knock some stuff down too that they're able to eat, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
But so he was boots on the ground. He was out there doing this with rhinoceroses and elephants, and a lot of the time they would find they would be too late.
That's awful.
They did come across a mother and her what are they, cub? I don't know. Whatever a baby rhino is called. Calf? We'll go calf. And he had mentioned that is there any way to tell if the mom was killed first and then the baby, or did they kill the baby first and then the mom? And they're like, there's no way to tell. And I was just like, ooh.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Don't harm animals. Oh.
Yeah. So Ugh, get over that. Okay, so then in 2016, bing bong, Harry met Meg. He had also started going into therapy because he was told that he might be diagnosed with PTSD because he was not feeling right.
Well, shoot, having a life like this, I wouldn't feel right either.
Yeah.
I need somebody to talk to at this point, man.
And he had mentioned...
I mean, he's gone how many years now? Dealing with all this?
They were saying, well, we might think you have PTSD from the war. And he was like, no, I think I have PTSD from the time that my mother was killed.
Well, heck yeah.
And I was like, yeah, see, nobody talked to you about grief and stuff.
Exactly, and that's what happens.
So, he met Meg through Instagram. That's right. It ain't dirty, whatever.
I thought they met through a friend, though. I know you know a little bit more about this.
His friend, I think her name was Violet, was with Meg on the Instagram.
Okay.
And he saw her and called up Meg and said, who is that girl that you with?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, that's my friend Meg. And he's like, can you give her my digits? Okay, he didn't say that, but you get the, you know.
You get the gist.
Yeah. So then they basically not Facebook, Instagram, message back and forth, and then they finally met.
Aww.
And so then once everybody found out that they were
kind of
together,
seeing each other, yeah,
which was, you know, months and months after they, you know, had been dating, then the press just swarmed like the little hippo poop fish that they are.
The locusts.
They went to her workplace. Okay, talking about Meg. So as soon as they started dating, press just swarmed her like again, poopy hippo poop fish. So where she was working on Suits in Canada, and then they had to put up all these fences and blinds and everything, and they're basically photobombing her house, her neighbors. They said that she had 2 dogs, and they were both rescue dogs, and they kept ringing her doorbell. Thank you. Why don't you yawn some more? They were ringing the doorbell so much that it caused one of her dogs anxiety.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
and anxiety dogs are very
yeah, so her neighbor was nice enough to take the dog because she was going to move in with Harry once they decided that, you know, they were going to give this a go.
Okay.
So she took her little dog. I want to say his name was Gary, but I'm not 100%. But he had little splints on it. He was a little rescue beagle. He had little splints on his leg. Little cast. He was so cute. So the press, that's when the press took, to me, a very dark turn. That's when they started bringing up, oh, look, Harry's new girlfriend. And then they would put, like, a family tree and say, oh, her mom is descended from slaves from, like, South Carolina or whatever. Who needs to know that? Nobody. They said...
and this is all the British press still. This isn't even America's...
No, because America, the only thing that American press really do is, oh, look at her outfit. Isn't she wearing? Yeah, it's entertainment.
The latest trend.
It's entertainment news. Yeah. I don't think there is,
near as harsh.
Yes, it's
No.
horrible. They said that her mom was from Compton, which she wasn't. She's never been to that part of Los Angeles. She's, grew up like in Brentwood, which is where like OJ and all that fancy shit is. I did not see anything like that when they went after Kate.
Yeah.
They just made it all about race, and it kind of took Harry by surprise too. He was like, why?
Like, why would you go down this dark avenue?
I'm gonna admit, when I first saw her, because I have seen Suits, I didn't even know that she was mixed. I didn't even care.
I'm pretty sure I recognized her from Hallmark, right?
I don't know.
She was on, or there's another lady that's very similar to what she looks like that's in Hallmark. But, yeah, no, I remember her in Suits and stuff. I'm like, okay, she's an actress. Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing to be expected. It was nothing. It was like, okay, he's dating somebody. Good for him.
I'm like, Grace Kelly was an actress? So what? Who cares? Yeah, it was bad. They did put out, he put out a statement saying, this is, not tolerated. I will not tolerate this,
Abuse.
And then Charles and Will basically confronted him. Hey, what are you doing? He's like, this is my girlfriend.
Defending my woman.
And I'm not going to put up with this. This is racist. And they're like, oh, you didn't give the palace the chance to respond. And he was like,
they were going to respond.
Right, he knew.
Yeah.
So, so they get engaged. And,
Press goes crazy, as usual.
Of course. So, then we get to what I call Beardgate. So after Harry came back from the South Pole expedition, he asked his grandmother, can I keep my beard for the wedding? Because apparently it was protocol that you be clean shaven in your uniform, whatever. And he explained to her, look, my Meg has never seen me without a beard. I don't want her walking down the aisle and seeing some rando stranger.
Yeah.
She's not going to recognize me. And,
the bride is supposed to shock, not the groom.
Yeah. And, his grandmother says, yes, that's fine. I like a little scruff on your grandfather every once in a while. Yeah. So, he also chose his uniform that he was going to wear. So, then...
Which they're allowed to choose right between their uniform and a suit, or is it,
no,
or is it just uniforms?
Will wanted to wear a specific uniform and was told, no, you have to wear this. But again, he's the heir and Harry is not. So this
Harry
plays
gives
in...
a little bit more of
Yes.
More leniency.
So then Will says, you're going to shave. And he's like, no, I already talked to Granny about it. And he's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, I talked to her. And she said, it was okay. And Will was like, you shouldn't have done that. You put her in a bad spot. And Harry was like, what do you mean?
How so?
And Will goes, well, she has a soft spot for you, and how was she going to say no when you're just, asking her, like that? And he's like, look, it's not a big deal.
You could have asked.
Yeah. And, so Will basically, the argument continued for, a week. Back and forth. He's like, you're going to shave or I'm going to shave you. And he's like, no, I got permission. So basically,
Nana boo boo.
Yeah. He basically said, at one point he actually ordered me as heir speaking to the spare to shave. And Harry goes, are you serious? And Will goes, I'm telling you, shave it off. And Harry goes, "For the love of God, Willie, what does this matter so much to you?" And he goes, "Because I wasn't allowed to keep my beard." And Harry goes, "Aha, there it is, right there."
Jealousy.
Because every time Harry gets to do something that Will couldn't, because Will is the heir, he gets jealous.
He could denounce and say, "I don't want it."
Yeah, he could.
Very well could. Don't get jealous because Bubba gets to go do all this and you don't.
Right.
Guess what? That's the responsibilities of being a bigger, older sibling versus the baby,
Yeah.
as I say.
And he's like, basically, you're going to bend the knee. And Harry was like, "No, I'm not."
Freaking throwing
I'm a-
Cersei in there. I've been to no one.
And I'm just like, oh, okay, insane. And the drama doesn't stop there. No, then we have what I call Tiara Gate. So,
Okay.
Meg picked a tiara to wear with her gown, and it was one of Diana's.
Okay.
So everything was set, blah, blah, blah. Well, the queen goes, "Hey, how would you like to see if you like one of mine?" And she's like, "Oh my gosh, thank you, ma'am. I would love to." So Harry and Meg went over there and met with her Highness the Queen and her dresser. Her name was Angela, but no relate, now it's going to be a bad stain. Okay, so they tried on a couple and they picked one.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Oh, this would be lovely." And the queen goes, "Okay, well, make sure that you try it on prior to the wedding, because it takes, your hairdresser is going to need to know how to do your hair and everything.
Around it, yeah.
Because apparently you have to sew the tiara into the
your
veil.
hair. Yeah, okay.
And then the dresser has to take it and fasten it into a plait of her hair.
Okay.
So they said, "Okay, that's great."
And
So
I imagine with it being, probably very old, I'm assuming it's not very new.
no, it's
Tiara is an
yeah.
older tiara that, you're having to be very delicate. So
Yes.
that's probably why she was talking about you've got to do all this stuff before.
Yes. And Harry and Meghan had spoken to Kate, and Kate said, "Yeah, you do need to practice ahead of time
Yeah.
to figure everything out." So when they were ready, they called Angela and said, "Okay, we're ready for the tiara," so they can start practicing and figure out what they're doing. Well, they got no response, no text, no nothing, just dead silent. So closer to the wedding, they're texting and calling, and they finally get a hold of her, and she's like, "Well, it's going to take, you're going to need a police officer and a courtier to bring it over." And he's like, "Okay, well, let's get that. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it." And she's like, "Well, I don't really have time now." She's being very dodgy, very evasive, very weird.
Huh.
And so he's like, "Look, we need this. You heard
Yeah.
my grandmother. She said we need to practice with it."
Yeah.
And she was like, kind of giving him side eye and, giving him what I call the shit, like, don't mess with me.
Yeah.
So it gets closer. He, finally goes up there. He signs a piece of paper and she hands him the tiara.
Without the courtier and
And the
all
cop,
that?
right, yes.
The crackers.
And he's like, it made no sense why she was being like that. He does know that Angela is the queen's confidant, but he doesn't really. You never get the understanding of why she was acting
the way
cagey,
she was.
like we offered it to you, but now, I don't know, maybe not.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Then, it continues. The bridesmaids' dresses.
Okay.
So Megan had these all French couture dresses, and they went just by measurements. So of course they're going to do the basic structure of the dress from those measurements, knowing that it's not going to fit. Then you're going to put it on, and then they're going to tailor it.
Correct. Just like you would at any formal dress wearing.
Kate calls Meg up and says, Charlotte is just bawling, and the dress doesn't fit. And she's like, well, we have the tailor here at the palace. His name is AJ. He's here at Kensington. Bring Charlotte. And she's like, oh no, she's just upset. All the dresses are going to have to be redone. And she's like, well, no, they're fine. We have them here
for that purpose.
For that purpose, to come and tailor the dress. We knew it wasn't going to fit. And Kate's like, oh, no. They have to be redone. And Meg's like, can you just do what all the other girls' mothers are doing and bring her up here and have the dress
to fit her
altered?
Yeah.
And then there was something about page boys. But all the page boys were American and hadn't even arrived. So Kate's saying, now there's this party for page boys. And Harry was like, they're all North America and none of them are here yet. So we don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So she was just throwing shit. Yeah. So then they get married. Yay. I saw it on TV. I don't know about you.
I did watch it.
I saw David Beckham and Victoria Beckham.
I always love seeing
and
them.
I saw Oprah. And I saw Priyanka Chopra.
I was going to say, yeah, she was there too. I'm trying to think who else I saw out there.
James Corden was there.
Yes, James Corden. I love him.
So they did their
ceremony.
They did their ceremony, and then they had their honeymoon. And Meg did her after their honeymoon. They came back. Meg did her first official solo outing with the Queen.
Okay.
So it looked like everything went fine. She told Harry, hey, we bonded. It was so cool. You know, we bonded. It was great. She was wonderful. Then you read the papers. And the papers just flipped out because, oh my God, Meg got into the car before the Queen. And Harry was like, that's because the Queen told her to get in the car.
Yeah.
So Meg got in the car when the Queen told her to get in the car. So, you know, then they blew up this thing about, oh my God, how dare she not wear a hat in the presence of the Queen? Well, come to find out, the palace were the ones that told Meg, don't wear a hat. Yeah. Then they had an outing. There was some kind of tragedy. I didn't really understand it. At Grenfell Tower, where they visit, and you always wear green. Well, nobody told Meg.
Oh, no.
So the press was just like, oh, she doesn't give a toss about these victims. And she's like, nobody told me. So Harry was like, don't worry about it. We'll talk to the palace. They'll set everything straight. And they'll clear it all up. And did they? No, they did not. Now we have what I call the not caught meeting. The first meeting between Will and Kate and Meg and Will. So apparently Will and Kate were upset, and called this meeting and said, you did not get us Easter presents. And Harry was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, you didn't buy us Easter presents. And Harry goes, that was Dad's thing. Dad bought you Easter presents.
Yeah.
We never did. And he's like, well, I'm sorry if that was a thing. We didn't know. And then Kate mentions that, I have to read this because it's hysterical.
Okay.
Meg asked, you hurt my feelings, Megan. When? Please tell me. I told you I couldn't remember something, and you said it was my hormones. What are you talking about? Kate mentioned a phone call in which they discussed the timing of wedding rehearsals. Meg said, oh yes, I remember. You couldn't remember something, and I said it's not a big deal. It's baby brain, because you just had a baby. It's hormones. Kate's eyes widened. Yes, you talked about my hormones. We're not close enough for you to talk about my hormones. Meg's eyes got wide too. She looked genuinely confused. As would I. Okay, I'm just saying. I'm sorry I talked about your hormones. That's just how I talk with my girlfriends. Willie, that's William, pointed at Meg. It's rude, Megan. It's not what's done here in Britain. And Meg said, kindly take your finger out of my face. Mm-hmm. And then they left.
See, now...
We talk way more than
all that.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh, my hormones are out of whack. When are they not? When are they actually in whack? That's what I want to know.
Forgetting something. Baby brain. Or early Alzheimer's, or as I call it, can't remember shits. You just have brain farts. And
it's common. And especially like with everything that they've got to remember. You can do this, you can't do this, you got to do this, you can't do this, you can do that, you can't do that. Oh, no, you must ask first. That's a lot of crap to remember and a lot of crap to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, you're not going to remember everything unless you're an elephant.
Right.
Which, I mean, some people are like that, but that's very, very rare. Chill out, man.
It's hormones. Why would you get sad?
But here's my other thing, okay? You're a female. It happens. It happens to males too.
How much of a stick up your rear do you have to get upset? Yeah, I'm just like, whatever. So weird.
Okay.
The press swarmed Meg's father. And I'm sure everybody knows.
Yes, there was a lot of...
He sold stories to the paps, blah, blah, blah. Well, the Queen asked Meg if she could talk to him. And she's like, he won't pick up the phone. She's like, well, can you go see him? And she said, no, he's on a tiny little town right near Mexico. I can't get in without the paparazzi just swarming. And she's like, well, why don't you write him a letter?
It's like, okay, yeah, sure.
So she wrote a letter, and that turns out to be a bad thing because later on, the paparazzi
got a hold of
that letter.
Of course they did.
Took out excerpts of it.
Yeah,
made it look like
made
it look shitty. And published it. So, while all that's going on, Harry and Meg get pregnant.
Yeah.
Then they go on their first, they go on a tour of South Africa, a couple other places, and she's just scoring. Everybody just loves her. And Harry mentions to her, you're doing too well. And she was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're making it look too easy. You're pregnant. Everybody's loving you. Everything's going, well, and that's when the shit hit the fan for his mom. Mm-hmm. When she started to show that she
could do this.
She could do this.
But that's literally what they wanted her to do.
Right.
And I mean, it's the same thing for Megan and the same thing for Kate. At which point, and again, I'm going back on all of them at one point, the paparazzi sat there and made her try to look bad or look stupid or something like that. And the royal family wanted them to fix themselves or insert themselves into something to be a better royal. Mm-hmm. And they do just that, and then they do too well?
Yep.
How do you do too well on something? Like, how?
Because you're outshining
Her Majesty?
No, in this case, it would be Charles.
Oh, Lord.
Yes.
Poor baby. Poor grandpa.
So then they get back. Then there's the second Will and Kate and Harry and Meg meeting.
Oh, boy.
And Harry and Meg wanted to know why their team that they shared with Will and Kate weren't stomping out these stories that there's so much strife between the women. And it was becoming more Team Sussex versus Team Cambridge.
What the heck?
And, yeah. Like the fake stories that were going around that Meg made Kate cry when it was the opposite. And they kind of, hemmed and hawed, and they couldn't figure out where the paparazzi were getting the stories. And Will and Kate had mentioned that while Harry and Meg were on tour, that they had dinner or lunch with Charles and Camilla, and might have mentioned, some issues. And Harry got livid. He
has every right to.
He's like, you of all people should know that is the one person that you do not tell. And then he kicked him out of their house. Yeah, you tell him, Harry.
Get him out. Be gone, beast.
So, Queen Elizabeth offered Frogmore Cottage for them to move into. It needed renovations. They looked at it. They loved it. It was wonderful.
It was away from eyes.
And it was space for them to grow.
Right.
While they were still in the Nottingham Cottage, which is a tiny little thing, they were supposed to go to a Royal Albert Hall charity Cirque du Soleil thing for the country of Lesotho, which is where another of Harry's charities. It was an HIV charity.
Something that his mom did, right?
Or
something like
that. She did HIV.
Oh, okay.
But this was like this specific country. He built schools there. He went there and on and off, and he was friends with the prince there, and it's a really cool story that I will not get into right now. But so they're doing this charity gala, and he comes home to get ready to go to this charity, and Megan is just like sitting on the stairs crying, and he's like, whoa, what's going on? And she's like, it would be so much easier if I weren't here. And he's like, what do you mean? And that's when you find out that she had been contemplating suicide.
Oh my gosh.
Because she's like, it would be so much easier for you if I weren't here.
That's awful.
My parents wouldn't have to deal with this. My friends wouldn't have to deal with this. Our baby wouldn't have to deal with this.
Pretty much what that one girl had to go through that he has to later find out about.
And he was kind of, he says he unfortunately thought like a royal. He was like, we have to go to this function.
Can you get it together for a little bit, basically?
Well, no, he's like, if we're late, they will crucify you on the papers. And he was like, you know what, you stay here, I'll go. And then she was like, no, we'll go together. I don't want to be here by myself with these thoughts. So the two of them go through this charity event, just holding hands. The lights go down, the show starts, and then tears. And for anybody to have to even think about that,
well, because, I mean, mental illness is a real thing.
Yes.
Like, and when you're
which
pregnant,
is one of their charities also.
And when you're pregnant, it's just, your senses and everything, emotion is so heightened, and you're just, it's like riding a roller coaster in a Ferrari, going as fast as you can, and you just never know what's going to hit you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is the best way I can explain it, because you'll be right as rain up here, and the next thing you know, all of a sudden you're sobbing, and I can't explain why. I didn't hit the button. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
So.
So they deal with that. They get her, help that she needs. Then they find out that the stupid paper called Mail on Sunday got a hold of the letter that she had sent to her dad.
Oh, no.
And they talked to the palace and said, can we sue them over this? This is illegal. They basically stole, even if that letter was given to them, it's not for them to publish.
Correct.
And the palace was like, no, we can't do that.
But I'm sure we can talk somebody down.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Then
Don't lie.
Will came to Harry. They got into a huge fight because Will called Meg difficult, and that Harry needed to take care of it. And he's like, "What are you talking about? She's my wife. Why are you reciting to me the press's narrative? You know her. She's not like this."
Correct.
And he's like, they started calling each other names.
Uh-oh.
It got heated. Harry said, if you see her struggling, you're her brother-in-law. Why aren't you helping her?
Yeah, your family.
And Will pushed Harry, ripped his necklace, and then Harry fell on the dog bowl and it broke.
Uh-oh.
And Will is basically goading Harry. Come on, hit me. It'll make you feel better. Hit me. It'll make you feel better. Do it. And he's like, that's not gonna solve anything. I'm not gonna hit you. And Will.
First off, let me just stop for 2 seconds,
okay.
because I have to vent on this part.
Well, I have to say, my brothers have done that, where they've gotten into fight and said, "Do it, hit me, do it."
I absolutely get that. I always absolutely get that between siblings. But here's my thing. You're telling him to go and take care of it. And you are the brother-in-law. Mm-hmm. You are family. Not only that, you are the future king of freaking England. She's part of your people, your subjects, the ones you're supposed to be looking out for and helping.
Mm-hmm.
And what the heck are you doing? You're sitting there bullying. No different than the press. No different than your father.
Mm-hmm.
What the crap?
And what exactly is Harry supposed to do? Take care of it. He's like, what am I supposed to do? Divorce her?
Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's
like, I don't know. It
sounds like that's what they want him to do.
He just, again, he wanted Harry to bend the knee, do what I tell you, blah, blah, blah. And then he leaves and he goes, you don't need to tell Meg about this. And he's like, what, that you hit me? And he goes, yeah. He goes, fine. He's like, fine, I won't. Well, Meg found out only because Harry was coming out of the shower and she saw he has bruises and scratches on his back.
Yeah.
And he didn't know that he had them. He did not see them because they're on his back. And she's like, hey, babe, what's the dealio? And he, can't lie.
He's not going to lie.
So he's like, this is what happened. So, I am going to read an excerpt about family from his book. Everything I'd been taught, everything I'd grown up believing about the family and about the monarchy, about its essential fairness, its job of uniting rather than dividing, was being undermined, called into question. Was it all fake? Was it all just a show? Because if we can't stand up for one another, rally around our newest member, our first biracial member, then what were we really? Was that a true constitutional monarchy? Was that a real family? Isn't defending each other the first rule of every family? And I think he nails it right there. Mm-hmm. Because my brothers and sisters would defend me just like I would. You can pick on, we can pick on them, but you can't pick on them.
Right.
And Will is not doing any of that. He's not backing up his brother.
No, he's sitting there just knocking him down. That's just insane.
Yes. Then, through the whole thing, Camilla and Charles continue to sacrifice Will and Harry at any chance they can for the benefit of good press. Funny thing, you know how they always do when you have the baby, you present it at the front of the hospital? Okay, this is how Meg and Harry did it. Meg went into labor. They left the cottage in, I don't know what a people carrier is.
A vehicle?
Yeah, but he's like, we left in a people carrier, which is something that the Paps wouldn't expect us to be in. So I guess that's why
a taxi?
I don't know. So they get to the hospital. There's a funny bit about the laughing gas. Yeah, I'm not gonna go into it.
Okay.
But if you want to learn about it, you gotta read the book. So then she has the baby. They do tests. They leave 2 hours after she has the baby and are back at Frogmore Cottage. Their press person then put out the statement that Meg was in labor. And Harry was like, but she's already had the baby. And she's like, they don't need to know that. So he's like, oh, I see. It's just a game with you guys. And she's like, yeah. So then later on, they announced that she had the baby. And a couple days after that, they announced that, his name was Archie. So then the press were just livid. They're like, that's not how it's done. He's like, oh, you're upset? Too bad. And I was like, yeah, you tell him.
Bazinga.
Then he talks about, and I've always wanted to know, when they say the institution, you can't, the institution won't allow that. Or the palace. There's the queen, and then there are these 3 courtiers, which he calls the bee, the wasp, and the fly. The bee is kind of... They all just... They're there for the power. And he's like, you're manipulating a 90-plus-year-old woman to get what you want.
Exactly.
And he realizes this. And they've tried several times through each of these morons to try to fix what's wrong,
Right.
which is the press. And they wanted to sue the newspapers over the letter.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, no, you can't do it. Well, Harry mentioned to a friend of his about this, and they said, well, why don't you just hire an attorney and sue them? And he's like, what? They're like, yeah, just hire your own attorney and sue the newspaper.
Yeah, outside the...
And he's like, I didn't even know that was an option. So what they did, they hired an attorney, and they sued, and you find out in the Netflix documentary that it took a while. It took like 2 years, but they won.
Oh, wow.
And they, I think, I don't know if they had to pay, but they had to put this big apology and all this other stuff.
Good for them.
Yes. And Charles
That's
and
what
Will...
you get, newspaper.
Yeah, stupid paps. Charles and Will were pissed, and he's like, I don't care. You know, we went your way. They blocked
didn't do
it.
anything.
Right.
Yeah. If you're not going to do something for me, I will find another avenue.
Yes.
I
So-
will get to yes.
So we're getting towards the end of the book, and Harry and Meg. This is around what they call Megxit.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was Harry and Meg never wanted to fully quit their duties. They wanted to live half time somewhere away from, cuckoo mania, and then the other half in Britain, and yet continue to do their charities and their, palace duties or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he had spoken to his grandmother, and she had been amenable to this, because he said, we could do South Africa, we could do New Zealand, we can do Canada. And she was like, oh, well, they're all Commonwealths, so that's good. So
Yeah.
she was like, oh, okay. Well, the press got wind of it, and then it got shut down.
If it's
So-
not one thing, it's another.
Yeah.
Come on, people.
So then they're like, oh, they're gonna Megxit. He's under her control. Blah blah blah. They're gonna leave. Well, Harry went to visit the Queen, and she's like, oh, I'm open this entire week. Come up and see me.
Mm-hmm.
So then he got there to England and rang her up. And they were like, well, no, she's busy. And he's like, no, she said she was available. And this was the B. He's like, no, she's not, she's busy all week. And so he called his grandmother and said, hey, I thought you were available. We're going to bring the kids up and see you. And she's like, oh, well, I didn't know there was stuff scheduled. And he goes,
Was it old lady brain or?
no, he goes, is the wasp there with you? And she was like, yes.
Ah.
So that made me think that they're trying everything they can to keep him from talking to her privately.
That's messed up.
Yeah. And she said, I won't be able to meet you until like February. So while they were in Canada, away from the shenanigans of the press,
Mm-hmm.
They were out of the press for like, I want to say 6 weeks. And then they said the paps just started showing up in Canada.
Oh, wow.
So he was telling his dad, look, we want to do this. We want to, do this half and half thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't do anything unless you put it in writing. He's like, I've done this. I've sent it to you. He's like, you need to send it to me in writing. So he
I don't blame him. I'm tired of freaking getting the runaround. I want it in writing. I want to know I get to go.
No, Charles was saying, I can't do anything unless you put it in writing. And he's like, and here he goes, I have sent this to you. He's like, I'm sorry, son, darling boy, I can't do anything unless it's in writing. So,
son that may not be my son.
Yeah, jerk. So he wrote out the plan.
Okay.
Mailed it, sealed it, private and confidential.
I got
Next
a bad
thing he
feeling
knows,
about this.
yes, it was leaked.
Oh,
It's in the papers.
Can't imagine who did that.
Oh, I have no idea. So then they have what they call the Sundringham Summit. He's like, it was at Sundringham, and I don't know why it's called a summit. But it was basically a meeting between the Queen, Charles, Will, and those three idiots, the courtiers, and Harry, about what the plan moving forward was. And they said, you basically have 5 options. One being you continue as is, doing your full duties. 3 is kind of a hybrid, which is basically what Meg and Harry wanted. And 5 being you complete severance. Like, you're gone.
At this point, I'd be ready to be gone.
Excuse me. So, the B only printed out options 1 and 5. And Harry goes, well, where are the others? And he's like, oh, well, my printer's on the fritz. He's like, I have them, but I couldn't print them out because my printer's on the fritz.
Yeah, fritz, not
yeah.
foot.
So they went round and round this whole time, and Harry just got fed up and left, not knowing, which way was up. What are we doing? Are we doing option 1? Are we doing option 3? Are we doing option 2? What are we doing? And as he was leaving, Harry went to the Bee's office and found his secretary, office manager person.
Yeah.
In the office, printing.
Oh, imagine that.
And he's like, hi, are you having issue with your printer? And he's like, no, everything's fine. Did you need something printed? And he's like, no, I just thought maybe you had some printer issues. And he's like, no, everything's fine. And he was leaving and passed by the Bee and gave him the side eye, like, caught you, you piece of garbage.
Ooh. Get him.
So he went back. Harry went back to Canada, and then it was sent out that they would be stepping back from full duties.
He didn't even make a decision,
right?
Did he?
No.
What the crap?
So they said,
so they made it
you're
for
gonna
him.
you're gonna do part-time, and we're gonna do it over a year transition and find out how we end up there. And this was in end of February. Then all of a sudden, Harry's bodyguards in Canada get a call, and they're being pulled. Their security is being pulled.
What the heck?
That they're no longer to have security, they're on their own. And his security, I appreciate that they tried. They're like, we can't just leave them here. They're being swarmed with paparazzi, and they're like, sorry, no can do. So Harry's calling around trying to find security, finding out how much it costs.
Yeah.
They have to find somewhere to leave because it's fixing to be, COVID and everything's going to lock down.
Right.
So
Paparazzi gonna be crazy.
Meg called up Tyler Perry. That's right, Medea. And said he had sent her flowers and said, "Girl, I know what you're going through. If you ever need anything, let me know." And she called him up and said, "Here's what's happening." And she was crying. And he's like, "You come take my house in California." So that's what they did. They were there for 6 weeks. And then, of course, the press, blah, 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 found them and start trying to get on the property. But then they have to shoot from far away because in America we have laws. You can't get up all in people's shit.
Can't get in your Kool-Aid.
So you have to shoot from far away. So there are helicopters and people in trees and this is like Hollywood. So I'm sure that all these other actors are like, don't be papping over here. So that is when Meg found out that she was pregnant with their second child.
Oh, okay.
But they lost the baby.
Oh, no.
Due to the stress and everything. And it's really cool. I don't mean that it's cool. They took the baby home and found a nice place at their new home and buried the baby.
Aww.
And I was like, it was
it
was very touching. And I felt really sorry that all of the stress that these people have caused this little family, that not only she almost to the point where she was going to take her life and the life of her unborn child,
yes.
Now they have. And it was, yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Yes. So they did find a home in California. They did the Oprah Winfrey interview.
I remember that.
And they said that they only did that because every time they tried to go to the palace to get them to put out a correction, the palace would be like, don't listen to it. We're not doing, or just ignore them completely.
Yeah. It's like they want to get their stuff put out.
So, I mean, you can only hit somebody so many times before they're going to get up and say, you know what, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And they fight back. So, they did their story. Then after Prince Philip's funeral, Charles, Will, and Harry were talking, had this meeting. And they were talking about how they asked about Harry's lawsuit because Harry decided to sue, I think, 2 or 3 of the papers for phone hacking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Charles was like, it's a waste of time. And he's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
He's like, it's
wrong.
It's illegal what they're doing.
Yeah.
And Charles goes, you must understand, darling boy, the institution can't just tell the media what to do. And I was like, you're the royal family. If you can't tell the paparazzi to back off, then you have no power, no backbone, no power. You have nothing.
No. And they really don't. It's just, they're there for looks. That's all they're there for now, it seems like. That's crazy. So.
Unfortunately, when they lost their they didn't really lose their titles. I mean, they have no duties. They were stripped of their, they're not backed financially by the palace. They lost some of their patronages, like, Harry lost the Invictus Games, which I was, like, angry. And so they set up their own R12 Foundation. I listened to Meg's podcast. I think there are 8 of them. They're good. Okay. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what we're doing.
Yeah. And then, I don't know if anybody saw the news where it said that King, I will never call him King, by the way, Charles, took $1 billion of the money from the wind farm and gave back to the people because of the recession. And at one point in the book, Charles says, I'm sorry, son, I can't pay for you and Meg. I already have to pay for Will and Kate. So he's saying that the Cornwall Duchy does not have funds to pay for Harry and Meghan and Will and Kate. I looked it up, and the Cornwall Duchy is estimated to be worth over $1 billion. That's billion with a B. And provides a yearly income that came to, in 2021, $24 million.
That's insane.
How can you not take care of 2 households with $24 million? And now he's the king, so he has even more.
This is just all so much.
I told you.
So insane. It's just, how do you do this to your own child? To your family?
I told you it was insane.
To your grandchildren at that. I mean,
you wondered
what is going to happen now? What's going to happen now? We don't know. We're going to wait day by day as we find out. And I feel absolutely sorry for them. But good for them that she's doing a podcast. And maybe that's helping her mental health-wise, as into getting better and being able to present herself. And good for Harry for doing a book. Good for him. Write a book. Get those emotions and everything pushed out there so people know your side of the story. I mean, you're entitled to it because they've been prying into your life your whole life. It's time to, hey,
this is what you said, now this is what really happened.
Exactly. So, good for him.
And you wondered why I kept coming over here and saying, oh my gosh, girl, I'm so angry. Now you know.
I do. That's insane. From what you told us in the deep dive of it, it's a great book.
It is.
So, highly encourage, read the book or listen to it.
Yes.
You know, whichever way you want to go. And it's Prince Harry, Spare.
Yes.
You know, you can get it at any bookstore or on
Amazon.com. You can get it on Audible. I did both because it turns out I fall asleep when I read. So I was following along.
Wow. That is just crazy. Crazy.
Leave us comments. You can email us.
Yeah.
Not sure what we're going to do on our next podcast because this one took me... Ooh.
Oh, goodness. I'm sure we'll come up with something. Or if you guys have something you guys want us to look into and deep dive, just let us know. I mean, shoot us an email at AmusingswithChelsea&Angee at gmail.com.
Yes.
And, yeah, we'll answer you. So, great.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.